Okay, we've got a few people in here. We're going to give it just 30 seconds, maybe a minute for the rest of the folks to join. Okay, it's 3 o'clock on the nose, Eastern. Good, we have more people coming in. Let me give them just another few seconds to log in. Welcome to everyone who's joined us so far. Okay, it's 1 minute past the hour. So I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining Beyond Virtual Visits, the technology stack. States are funding under RHTP, which is the Rural Health Transformation Program. I'm Kristen DeProspero, the VP of Grant and Adoption Services at Solutionz, Inc., and I'll be your host. Joining me are two industry experts, Eric Bacon, the CEO of telemedicine.com, who's going to lead our clinical and workforce discussions, and Sean Fernandez, the VP of Security at Solutionz, our cybersecurity lead. We're hosting this webinar because the industry is at a pivotal moment. The Rural Health Transformation Program represents a transformational opportunity, not just to expand virtual care, but to modernize the entire rural care ecosystem, which ultimately will have a significant impact on how healthcare operates in the United States for decades to come. Our goal today is to help you understand what states are actually funding, how to structure a fundable program and project, and how to build technology that advances the desired CMS outcomes. At Solutionz, we see ourselves and our role not just as a vendor, but as your design partner, helping you shape RHTP-ready solutions that combine clinical access, workforce development, cybersecurity, and infrastructure into a single fundable strategy. So let's begin. Here's our roadmap for the next hour. We're going to kick off with the RHTP reality check and the $10 billion per year urgency. I still can't believe I'm using the B for billion. It's huge. It's a huge program. Then we're going to explore the state funding landscape with structural models and priorities. Next, the heart of it, the 3-lane tech stack covering clinical access, care management, and infrastructure. I've got the biggest B suddenly coming into this call with us. I guess it wants to know too. So we'll discuss the non-negotiables like workforce and cybersecurity. We're going to finish with accelerated procurement options to bypass the RFP trap, with plenty of time for Q&A at the end. Also, this webinar is being recorded, and we'll send out the link tomorrow to all who've registered. Okay, so now, throughout our time today, I may be repeating some information that some of you know already, but I believe each of you will find some nuggets in our discussion. Let's start with the scale and the urgency. This Rural Health Transformation Program is a $50 billion federal commitment over 5 fiscal years from 26 to 2030. Distributed at $10 billion per year across all 50 states. That means each state is going to get approximately $1 billion from this program by the end of the 5th year. Georgia, for example, that's the state I live in, has requested about $1.4 billion. Healthcare and education organizations will be the key subrecipients of this funding. CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, is the federal agency responsible for this program and determines how much is awarded to each state each year. Once awarded, states must distribute these funds using a variety of mechanisms to healthcare, academic, tribal, and provider organizations. This is clearly focused on rural areas in the country, but urban entities will be involved and may even assist in the management of the program. So although the focus is rural, urban organizations will be involved. Also, there's a strong emphasis on shovel-ready projects because of the extremely contracted timeline, which we're going to get into here on the next slide. We'll dive deeper into the targeted use of funds throughout the call, and you'll see why these organizations are so critical to the CMS transformation goal. States submitted their applications November of last year, by November 5th. In fact, they only gave them 52 days to create their application and submit it. And CMS announced the awards in late December, December 29th. That was an aggressive cadence that signals how quickly states are expected to move from plans to funded implementation. The bottom line, this historic moment is about building complete outcomes-driven technology ecosystems, not just buying carts and cameras. CMS emphasizes workforce development, clinical access, tech innovation, and cybersecurity as core program aims. That's the stack we'll be unpacking today. It's become really clear to us after many conversations that there's tremendous confusion in the market around this funding. It came out of nowhere. It came out so quickly, and CMS wants the funding deployed ASAP. It's truly a use or lose it situation. Funds actually have to be obligated by September of this year. So they have to be obligated in about 6.5 months from now. They need to spend all year funding. Any subrecipients getting the money have to spend it by September of next year. So obligating these funds by the end of this year helps secure the funding for the future years and avoid the funding cliff. This means states and regional leaders responsible for distributing these funds need to hear from you regarding your projects and program goals right now. In fact, Alaska, I think we have a few of you on the call, people from Alaska, your deadline is tomorrow for the letters of intent or letters of interest. And if you've got questions about that, you can contact me after this webinar and I can lead you to where you fill out that letter of interest. So it's moving very, very quickly. So CMS was very clear that each state needed to focus on 5 strategic goals designed to transform how we receive healthcare in rural areas. It's a big mindset shift from fee-for-service and individual programs to ecosystems and integrated regional and statewide coordinated programs. CMS wants states to focus on prevention and chronic disease management, infrastructure and clinical access, and clinical services, workforce training, innovation, innovative care models, innovative technology, and cybersecurity. This will open the door to a much larger solution scope for your organizations. For example, K-12 leaders see RHTP as a chance to expand school-based health and behavioral health access, an opportunity to support health career pathways, a way to modernize school health tech infrastructure, and maybe even ways to offer healthcare services at schools where residents live. It's a true place-based healthcare of the future. Higher ed leaders see RHTP as a major opportunity to strengthen rural healthcare workforce pipelines, a funding avenue for simulation labs and training centers, and telehealth curricula, a chance to become key anchors in statewide hub-and-spoke health networks. All sectors should be aware of the same truth. RHTP is not just a hospital and clinic funding program. It's a community-wide rural transformation strategy. And education systems play a crucial role in making states successful, not just the healthcare side. Okay, so let me take a pause, take a breath, and get some feedback. We want to learn more about who's joined this call. So do me a favor and share the type of organization you're with, chat. We want to understand what you need and want from the Rural Health Transformation Program. And it's okay if you don't know yet. I mean, this just came out. That's really one of the reasons we're here and assisting in the process, because honestly, this funding seemed to come out of nowhere, and many people have been blindsided by it. So it'd be helpful to know a little more about you. So go to the chat and tell us what state you're in, your organization type. So if you're healthcare, education, corporate, or vendor, and what pulled you, what compelled you to come to this call. And we'll adjust our conversation to align. So please go to the chat and give us a little bit of that data. So while you're posting that information, I'll show you one of the biggest structural challenges inside the RHTP funding model. That's the subrecipient spending limits, and specifically the 20% cap. And remember, I keep saying subrecipient because the states got the money, we're told they get the money at the very end of last year, but they're pushing that money down.
Hey, Kristen, there might be a few questions regarding the chat. I see some hands up. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
I don't know if they're unable to, or I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can open that up. We will get the moderators to see if they can open up that chat. And if we're not able to do that, maybe you can put it in the Q&A. Maybe you can put it.
Chat's open now.
Yep,
okay, Katie. And thanks, Sean. So when you look at the funding breakdown on the left, you can see that more than half of every award, 55% or more, is expected to go towards programs, services, and workflow design. That's the core of the initiatives, outcomes, training, process redesign, and patient impact. Next, 10% is typically allocated for administrative costs, followed by about 15% for direct provider payments. These tiers are fairly rigid, and together they consume the majority of the award because before you even get to any of the infrastructure. And that brings us to the hard limit, that capital and infrastructure expenditures, which are federally capped at just 20% of the total award. That means any proposals focused primarily on hardware or anything that looks like standalone equipment purchases will either be unfunded or rejected outright. So to be competitive, we're encouraging applicants to integrate infrastructure into a broader strategy that clearly drives clinical outcomes and workforce enablement. In other words, the technology can't be the story. It has to be part of the story. Successful proposals align equipment within a larger transformation model that checks every box in the funding structure. So navigating the subrecipient maze isn't just a compliance exercise, it's a strategy exercise. And winning will be the organizations that are building their infrastructure more around outcomes, not the other way around. Okay, so regardless of the model, they're moving quickly and prioritizing partners with clear, actionable plans. And when I say partners, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about the groups within each state that are going to be the boots on the ground, the organizations addressing healthcare. So with states publishing strategies, gathering input, and issuing awards in rapid succession at a breakneck pace, readiness is now a competitive advantage. I already mentioned Alaska has a due date tomorrow, but Georgia and Ohio and North Carolina, they all have open opportunities for you to be requesting funds. So keep your eyes open for that. And we also have ways to help you watch for those open windows. So let's start with the first category of state strategies. So competitive grants and competitive grant models. When a state chooses a competitive model, they're essentially saying, show us your evidence, show us sustainability, and show us the impact. These states expect subrecipients like hospitals, clinics, and regional partners to come prepared with baseline data, credible ROI, and implementation-ready partners. This is where many organizations get stuck because it requires more than a wish list. It requires a business case. So take South Carolina, for example. The state is distributing roughly $200 million through competitive subawards in the first year of the program. To even be considered, organizations must demonstrate that they have the data, the partners, and the operational readiness to execute quickly. These awards are going to groups who can show measurable outcomes from day one. Then there's Ohio, which received about $202 million. Ohio is using a tiered competitive RFP model focused on building innovative hubs. And you're going to find this hub conversation throughout this discussion and the program. Their priority areas include strengthening clinical integrated networks and expanding emergency treat-in-place models. So again, notice the theme. States want partners who aren't just buying equipment. They want partners who'll deliver clinical, operational, and financial outcomes. The main takeaway for competitive states is this: if you can't measure it, you can't fund it. And if you can't staff it, it's not going to be approved. Next, we shift to the hub and spoke model, which is rapidly becoming one of the most common RHTP strategies. In these states, funding flows into localized networks that coordinate resources across regions. Instead of operating in silos or smaller facilities, the spokes connect into larger systems and command centers. These are the hubs. North Carolina is a really great example. With an award of about $213 million, they're creating 6 locally governed NC Roots hubs. These hubs require full AV command center design, statewide UC platforms, and tight coordination between agencies. It's a technology-heavy, workflow-heavy model that requires high readiness and strong partners. West Virginia, at roughly $200 million, is building what they call the connected care grid. They're invested in the digital spine that ties community-based kiosks and remote health points directly back to hospitals. This is about creating seamless access points across rural communities. The bottom line with hub and spoke states is that they're funding integration, not isolated equipment purchases or programs. They want collaboration, shared resources, and systems that look and function the same across the region. Okay, finally, the third model is the most centralized. That's direct procurement. In this model, instead of issuing grants, the state itself purchases technology in bulk and then distributes it through standardized programs. These states want speed, consistency, and statewide standards. The best example is Georgia. Again, that's where I'm at. With about $219 million, Georgia's model runs through what they call the Great Health Program, where the state uses a third-party administrator to manage deployments and ensure consistency across facilities. So for local hospitals and clinics, this means 2 things. You must join or form a regional consortium to receive state-purchased assets. And you must be ready to adopt technology that the state has already selected. So Georgia has already earmarked $17 million for standardized telepods. You see a little picture we put in here of the telemedicine.com telepods, and $22 million for workforce-focused simulation labs. This is a very clear signal that Georgia is funding end-to-end ecosystems, telemedicine access plus the workforce layer needed to operate it. The key message here is direct procurement states. The states pick the technology. You pick how ready you are to use it. Okay, so after looking at these three very different state distribution models, and by the way, that's just three. Some states are doing it even in another way, so we can help you navigate that. But the question becomes, how do you build a proposal that wins under any of them? This slide gives you the answer. The winning formula is a blended strategy that includes infrastructure, and remember, states cap this at about 20%. Clinical services, the people who actually deliver care through the technology, and then workforce training, the support layer that ensures adoption, competency, and sustainability. So if you only submit infrastructure like rooms, carts, and cameras, you'll lose. If you only submit clinical services without the supporting technology, you'll lose. If you submit a workforce plan without clinical alignment, you're going to lose. So every winning RHTP proposal requires all three components working together: infrastructure, clinical services, workforce training, a fully formed outcomes-ready project. This is why Solutionz and our partners created the lanes framework to help organizations build this exact formula. When you combine the operational readiness, the clinical workflows, the technology ecosystems, states see you not as an applicant asking for money to buy equipment, but as a partner delivering measurable, sustainable impact. So the final takeaway for this section is simple. No states, regardless of the model, will fund isolated requests. They will fund complete, shovel-ready ecosystems that deliver measurable outcomes. So to move from we need equipment or we need some money for this category or that category, you have to move to we have a complete fundable solution. We use a framework with partners like telemedicine.com called the lanes. It aligns directly with RHTP priorities, and those lanes are the clinical access, the care management, and the collaboration or infrastructure. These three lanes take into consideration all 5 of the strategic goals CMS laid out in the program. So I've been talking for a while. So before we deeply dive into those lanes, let me pass the mic to Eric. And I'm really grateful, Eric. Thanks for joining us, and tell us about telemedicine.com.
Thanks, Kristen. That was a great background there. Good afternoon. I'm Eric Bacon. I'm the CEO here at telemedicine.com. We're going to take a look at the rural transformation in the 3 lanes Kristen spoke about just a minute ago. Before we jump into those lanes in the framework, I want to share a little bit about us, telemedicine.com, and why our partnership with Solutionz is so important right now. At telemedicine.com, we built an organization to be more of a technology partner than a telehealth add-on. We see ourselves as an all-in-one strategic care partner supporting both B2B and B2C models with a single mission: elevate rural and global health by connecting every point of care to certified clinicians with flexible technology. It's a lot to bite, but that's the mission that drives everything we do every day. Our team has spent decades listening closely to patients, providers, health plans, health systems, employers, understanding real-world challenges and building solutions that fit in a way that they actually operate. It's clear to listen. There are a lot of barriers. There's a lot of obstacles. As RHTP rolls out, that listening piece has never been more important. The states are aligning their funding towards, as Kristen mentioned a minute ago, tangible healthcare mandates, expanding access to care. Well, let me say that differently. Are you expanding access to care? Ensuring equity in the underserved communities, strengthening community-based services, improving quality and safety, and lastly, building the workforce that's going to sustain those models in rural healthcare, which is a challenge. It has always been a challenge. Telemedicine.com, we align directly with these goals. So what we do is through a holistic approach to virtual care. We build around all 4 core pillars: hardware and medical devices, software integration, clinical operations, education, and CME. So as Kristen said a minute ago, if we just want to go in and buy hardware, it's not going to get funded. But looking at these 4 core pieces of virtual care, are your solutions integrated? Are your platforms that integrate to those solutions interoperable? And do they connect to your EMRs? Is there a flow there? Do you have clinical operations and virtual staffing to deploy that and support that? And then do you have a program in place to educate your team, your staff through CME programs to, upstaff them, upscale their services to be confident in supporting telemedicine? When you bring all of those elements together, technology, clinicians, devices, education, you get a fully integrated ecosystem capable of supporting large-scale transformation. And that's exactly what the states are asking for right now under the RHTP. So with that formation in place, we'll shift to our first component of the lanes here: access. Lane A is all about clinical access, the who behind the technology. You can equip every room in your hospital with the best telehealth available, but if you don't have the clinicians to support that, it's just going to sit idle. We've all seen it. You buy the technology, it gets deployed in the room. Maybe you have some attrition, it collects dust, it moves to the closet, the program fails. That's the core problem. This is the lane that solves it. At telemedicine.com, we anchor lane A with our clinician network. For instance, instant access to telepsychiatrists, hospitalists, cardiologists, whatever your specialty is or your workflow is, we have the clinical network to back that up. Rapid service line expansion so rural hospitals eliminate costly patient transfers, which is in direct alignment with what the state RHTP program goals are. It lets you keep your patients in their community and keep the revenue at your facility. I'll give you a perfect example of this I had just recently in rural Texas. Speaking with a hospital, they have the right technology. They're supported by their board, but they have 2 hospitalists. One is right out of school, the other one has a year experience. And they said, we transfer probably 60% of our population out because we don't have the confidence within our facility to support them there. So through your online services, could we get an intensivist to be the backup to those hospitals? And now we've just changed that community. We've kept the revenue, which is really critically important in those rural communities. We've kept the patient in the community where they're going to heal better because their family's right there. And it just helps the whole ecosystem. So that includes a whole bunch of elements. Moving on, it's virtual primary and specialty care, behavioral health, psychiatry, chronic disease management. These are delivered by the clinical teams and infrastructure that we bring to every partnership. But just as important as the providers themselves is the enablement layer, the components that make the clinical model work in rural settings. That's implementation and deployment, clinical training and onboarding, 24/7 technical support, and clinical support. These are the elements that ensure your staff, your workflow, and your technology stay aligned and functional from day one. We have a motto: train, support, and train some more. I'd like to say that's mine, but actually I learned it from a good friend who was at Polycom over a decade ago. But if you want a sustainable program, you're going to have attrition. You've got to train it, you have to have champions, and we're here to do that with you. Lane A goes beyond clinical access. To make the virtual services clinically meaningful, you may need diagnostic grade endpoints at the bedside, tools that let a remote specialist see and hear at a quality level equivalent to being in the room. So, for an example, here's a multifunction camera with interchangeable lenses for primary care, otoscope, dermoscope, general view. Very well embraced device in telemedicine today globally. Digital stethoscopy, making sure that you're selecting the right technology that not just sends sound through an audio channel, but allows you to filter that sound at the right hertz range and break out the audio channel so you can actually hear a diagnostic quality, not just something streaming audio sounds from one point to another. That's what telemedicine.com, with all the years of experience that we have and the deployments we have, we can bring that to you. Here's two short, simple examples, but whether it's ultrasound, EKG, spirometry, whatever your program specialties, we can support that also in the type of form factor you're looking for. So when you combine real clinicians with the appropriate diagnostic grade tools, you create a virtual care experience that truly supports the acute and specialty decision making. Outcome goal: Lane A is designed to keep patients local, reduce avoidable transfers, increase satisfaction by getting the right specialist at the right time through a standardized clinical endpoint. That is the heart of Lane A, and the who and with what, why it matters, right? So now let's take some thinking into Lane B, because access alone isn't enough if care falls apart after the discharge. And this is really important. And as we've all seen this growing over the years, Lane B extends the care continuum and the how behind long-term outcomes, the data that truly matters. If Lane A gives patients access to clinicians in the moment, Lane B ensures the small issues don't spiral into an ED visit, a rehospitalization, or creating gaps in that care continuum. This is where rural hospitals and clinics often struggle the most, especially those with high no-show rates, chronic care disease burdens, etc. Here at telemedicine.com, we support Lane B by deploying chronic disease management programs, utilizing population health tools and RPM initiatives that maintain continuous touch points with the patients. That approach is especially valuable for FQHCs, RHCs, and rural clinics that need predictable, repeatable workflows to improve quality metrics. And those inputs flow clearly into the patient record, supporting tighter flow through the CCM and RPM plans that we were talking about earlier when we talked about the 4 elements. You have in the acute settings. Now, as we move in home, it's still critically important this information flows back to the health system to make those decisions. So remote patient monitoring gives patients real-time visibility into their chronic conditions while generating the clinical data organizations need for fundable RHTP projects. With connected kits and dashboards tracking metrics like blood pressure and glucose, patients stay engaged. Providers get the continuous insight into that patient when they're not there every day, and patient-friendly, outcome-driven tools reduce avoidable ED visits, reducing costs, expand access to care, and create a measurable improvement in chronic disease management. TCM and CCM are the backbone of stabilizing high-risk rural patients. Transitional care management ensures safe, supported handoffs after discharge, dramatically reducing readmissions. CCM and TCM, especially TCM, is really a huge gap all across the United States, matching there. Chronic care management keeps patients engaged at home with ongoing system checks and touch points that will prevent small issues from escalating. Together, these structured workflows will deliver immeasurable, community-based improvements that state evaluators are going to look for RHTP-funded models. The targets are clear. The targets are clear. Lower ED visits, higher patient satisfaction, measurable access gains. These targets align with CMS expectations around quality, care transformation, and access expansion, the 3 pillars that strengthen RHTP funding narratives. With Lane A and Lane B working together, you have both the clinical muscle and the continuity engine needed to transform care across rural communities. Lane B is all about extending care beyond the hospital walls, because sustainability depending on shifting from the episodic acute encounters to a proactive chronic disease management. States are heavily prioritizing this lane because it tackles the root cause of poor outcomes in rural communities. And when you combine Solutionz infrastructure, their AV design, the cybersecurity, multi-state standardization, along with telemedicine.com virtual care, clinical networks, workflow support. We create a unified model that proves to CMS this is an ongoing care system, not only a one-time equipment purchase, collecting dust. We believe that's what drives true rural transformation. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Kristen to take us into Lane C.
Thanks, Eric. That was really good. There's a lot to unpack in all of that. And in Lane C, consider that your backbone. So that's the standardized, secure environment that makes Lane A and B reliable at scale. So Lane C focuses on the infrastructure that makes virtual care reliable. So the challenge today is that many organizations still rely on disparate tools, unsecure consumer hardware, basic video platforms, leading to inconsistent care and workflow fatigue. The solution is a standardized, secure physical architecture. That means equipping the spokes with consistent AV technology and telehealth rooms, medical carts, and building hubs with high-density server racks, video walls, unified communication platforms, and data centers as an engine to supporting that ecosystem. So Lane C is like the where of the three lanes. A is the who, B is the how, and C is where it all happens. So together, this creates the compliant digital backbone states like Mississippi and Missouri and West Virginia now require, and ensures that every clinical interaction happens on a stable, secure, and clinically ready endpoint. And so I love to show these because at the spokes, we standardize medical grade endpoints and form factors to fit each of these settings. And this is just a couple. This is not every option. So telemedicine cart series is a small, lightweight cart with integrated Windows PC. It's got a spacious work surface and a one-touch height adjustment for full sit or stand range, locking storage drawers, single point charge kit with hospital grade coiled power cords, and the AC distribution. It's got open architecture wheel base to keep a natural stride, and it's got 4 5-inch dual wheel casters with front locks that are UL and CE compliant. The platform is modular and configurable, so you can choose the PC type, like an all-in-one or a laptop or a small form factor or a tablet, the dual monitors or a single monitor. You can have it powered or non-powered, and you can have extra secure drawers for keyed or keypad, and even private label options. Detailed dimensions and heights range and are published for each model on the telemedicine.com website. For the wall mount workstations, you get an integrated PC, a monitor, a keyboard and mouse, a PTZ camera, and audio. The upper enclosed compartment with a locking door for the CPU, and then the fold-down workstation, rated to hold 40 pounds, ventilation for continuous airflow, and keyboard mouse auto dock when the surface closes. So the units are made in the USA, and telemedicine.com offers them in 6 colors and are fully customizable with options like medical devices and enclosures that house a multi-scope and the multi-purpose camera, the digital stethoscope, the vital signs monitors, the ultrasound, or 12-lead ECG. And typically, the delivery is approximately 40 days from the order acceptance, which is fantastic. The portable teleclinics, think of like a pack and go case, coming in 2 different sizes. There's compact and large with Windows tablet PC, built-in webcam and speakerphone for 2-way video, USB ports for peripherals, and in the large case, an integrated battery that's approximately 4 to 8 hours of uptime with a status indicator. So these are designed for in-home visits or EMS or mobile health vans. I know there's a lot of requests across all the states for mobile systems in the emergency vehicles. And even for disaster response, it supports multiple platforms. For example, the Agnes software, we really haven't talked about that, but that's the clinical exam and consultation software that comes with these systems. And even VC, TMA, Zoom, Neat, you name it, those platforms can be incorporated into this system. So devices commonly bundled include the multi-purpose camera and scope, interactive stethoscope, the pulse oximeter, vital signs monitor, ultrasound probe even, wireless 12-lead ECG, spirometer, and dental cams. There's a lot of variety. I forget the number. I think at one point there were over 40 or 50 different types of peripherals that you can connect into your Solutionz. So on the software side, telemedicine.com integrates HIPAA-compliant video, EHR connectivity, telemedicine medical device systems, and AI tools like discharge, clinical assistance, and voice. So every site runs the same buttons and same workflows. That's really important because having the workforce feel comfortable in any of their settings with these consistent types of systems makes it a lot easier to do what they need to do best and really help with the healthcare. So we operationalize lane C with our 4 phases that Eric talked about, with the implementation, the discovery and deployment and integration, onboarding and training, and go live. And then the ongoing optimization, which is how we keep experiences consistent across FQHCs, or maybe it's school-based health clinics, urgent care, colleges and universities, even correctional health. So the bottom line, lane C, is the digital and physical fabric that unites your network, the where that holds the who and the how together. And by the way, I see we have Sanus on the call. They offer the world's first high-level disinfection system that can be operated while spaces are occupied. It's really quite remarkable. Imagine being able to disinfect spaces where we eat, sleep, and breathe without having to evacuate for a wet fog process. This is a game changer for healthcare and education spaces. Okay, so that was a lot. Obviously, technology is necessary, but your biggest constraint is typically the people. To make lanes A through C durable, we need a way to grow skills locally and keep talent. Healthcare leaders tell us the same thing. Retention and upskilling determine whether transformation sticks. Our strategy is to leverage lane C, the standardized rooms, carts, portable cases as software, all of those medical peripherals, to run local high-fidelity training and simulation without pulling teams away from their home base. So for example, using full body simulation mannequins to support real-life learning scenarios is a clear win for building confidence and assessing student competency, so necessary to the healthcare field. That's squarely in line with CMS goals for workforce enablement and care transformation. So how we deliver it? Using the live clinical stack. You train where you work. We run scenarios on the actual HIPAA compliant video, EHR integration, device connected environments staff use with patients. So practical equals reality. So they get these device-based skills labs. Using that multi-scope and multi-purpose camera supports supervised otoscopy, dermoscopy, general imaging with all of those capabilities that it's got, even with a rear touch screen for the coaching and debrief. They can use and practice with the USB digital stethoscope, which provides those consistent bell and diaphragm sounds via the USB AC connection, with that Agnes integration, that consult software that's ideal for cardiopulmonology and maternal care simulations. You know, I haven't really mentioned maternal much, but maternal fetal care is one of the really big important pieces of focus for the rural communities, because of the shortage of those types of physicians, and we really need that in the rural areas. And then those Walmart and carts give staff the exact feel of the live workflow. So they get to use that system and understand the ergonomics and infection control routines and practice all of this in sim mirror the real thing. So portable teleclinics let educators bring training to home health as well. EMS and mobile van teams with those 48 hours of onboard power and the same device that they'll use and carry into the field. So using those practical systems in their educational environments help them. One of my favorites is the full-scale sim labs, like the one that we installed at UPenn. It shows a wide scope of services that we support. So also structured learning pathways. We pair on-site simulation with telemedicine.com's CME accredited courses. So they have foundations, they have bedside manner. There's a course on clinical workflow and safety. There's another one on health equity and advanced technical critical care models. So growth is documented, it's credit bearing, and it's continuous. So why does this retain staff? It delivers confidence with real world tools and reduces travel burden, shows a visible ongoing investment in clinicians, all while improving the quality, safety, and access metrics that the boards are looking for. So, Sean, this takes us to you. And how do we make sure that all of this is protected?
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. Good afternoon, everyone, minus those of perhaps in Alaska and Hawaii where it's still morning. Hope you're hanging in there. My name is Sean Fernandez. I head up our cybersecurity program at Solutionz. So I'll obviously spend a little bit of time talking about cybersecurity today. Under the RHTP grant, cybersecurity is really not optional. It wraps around everything we're talking about here because it protects the bigger goals. Better care, sustainable access, and smarter use of technology. And CMS knows that these systems are not secure. They can quickly become a problem instead of a solution. So in cybersecurity, it takes only one weak point, an unsecured device, an outdated system, an unpatched patch, or a bad integration. And now you're dealing with a breach risk, exposed data, disruption, and reputation problems, et cetera, to services that our rural communities are actually depending on. And the urgency is real. A rural hospital survey, there was 69% said cyber and IT modernization was a year one priority. A lot of organizations are still working through basics like multi-factor authentication, threat detection, or threat monitoring, and incident response, and have not yet have those set up. So that is why cybersecurity has to wrap around every project aligned with NIST and HIPAA. And so these investments are protected and built to last. So building on that, the real foundation here has to be cybersecurity and resilience. And I like the term resilience. It's not how safe you are, how protected you are, it's how resilient you are as an organization. Because if you want technology, innovation, and sustainable access to actually work in rural healthcare, the environment underneath it has to be secure, stable, and monitored. CMS understands that. Excuse me. Because without those protections, even great programs, telehealth, remote specialty access, workforce training, chronic care support can get disrupted very quickly. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, it only takes one vulnerable endpoint, one outdated system, or an overlooked backdoor, and now the whole model is at risk. And that today affects more than IT. It affects privacy, it affects uptime, it affects continuity of care, and rural communities, as all the folks here in the rural areas know, there may not be a quick backup solution. So when we talk about the foundation, I really think about four things. Firsthand, you think about hardened endpoints, making sure the actual devices in the field are protected. Things like carts, cameras, workstations, even microphones, and anything connected to your networks. Second, your secure architecture. HIPAA compliant, segmented networks that reduce risk and keep issues from spreading. Third, as I mentioned before, resilience, especially around broadband reliability and systems uptime. And fourth, RMM. I'll speak with RMM stands for remote monitoring and management. RMM, I'm going to speak to it from a cybersecurity standpoint because later I'm going to talk to it from an AV environment standpoint. RMM is really, which gives you the visibility. So the issues can be caught and resolved before it's a complete breach or a bigger shutdown, or that breach can spread throughout the entire organization. This is another reason why this is such a non-negotiable under the CMS. So
I know we have some connection issues, Sean, and I think that our time is moving quickly. Do you want me to cover this one?
yeah, I apologize. I could tell I was having connectivity on my back now.
That's okay. I can take this on. So obviously it's super important what Sean is talking about. You know, number one, crime victims of the cyber attacks are in healthcare. So you just need to know that Solutionz has a very strong support structure, and it's not just about checking a compliance box. It's about protecting the mission, protecting the investment, and protecting the patient and communities depending on these services. So if we miss the safeguards, we leave open doors, and bad actors will take advantage of that. And we just can't afford that. You can't afford that. And as Sean talked about, RMM plays a big role in keeping telehealth operations up and running. It gives you 24/7 visibility into the health of your network and devices. You can actually see it. And that matters even more in rural environments because a lot of these issues, you know, can be identified and resolved remotely before they become bigger disruptions. And that means less downtime, faster response, and fewer situations and waiting hours for on-site support. You've got healthcare to deal with. You don't want to have to deal with these tech issues. So a lot of times we're seeing the issue before the user even reports it, and we're able to solve it remotely. And that kind of proactive support is a big part of keeping these programs reliable and sustainable. And then the structured cabling is the physical backbone and reliable IT network of a reliable IT. And it gives you flexibility, performance, scalability. I'm going to push a little bit faster here because we're running out of time, but really it covers and supports the broader technology ecosystem from the IoT to the smart building technologies. We do it all. So I'm going to move so that we can definitely get to the questions. So thank you, Sean. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about Solutionz and how do we support you through our grant program services. I run our grant and adoption services. I lead the team that acts as your guide on the side. And we help with consulting with your applications, like, you know, to quickly navigate and participate in this program, the RHTP, that just came out of nowhere. So we've been helping organizations like yours find and win these alternate funding sources for over 16 years. And we provide a collaborative guidance from current state assessments to advising on alignment with the state priorities, even developing use of funds roadmaps for you to have fast obligation and ensuring compliance with the CMS milestones. So our focus is really on accelerating your involvement, helping you turn your ideas into shovel-ready proposals so you can secure the funding before those deadlines hit and start transforming that rural health right away. We even do that with our guidance in place. Our procurement and deployment strategies ensure speed to value. So making sure your project is fully compliant. We also can help you leverage these cooperative purchasing vehicles like GPOs and GSA and NASPO to bypass those lengthy RFPs if possible. In fact, if we have anybody on here from West Virginia, the normal procurement laws have been waived to make sure that you can move quickly. So just strictly for RHTP programs, West Virginia waived the laws and other states are following. So many other states are trying to do the same. So I am going to go ahead and bypass some of the additional points I was going to make and just re-reference the fact that partnering with Solutionz and telemedicine.com de-risks your RHTP strategy every step of the way. We offer reduced risk through a single point of contact. We're here to help you. As one of the hospital CEOs puts it, we need a true solutions-oriented partner that understands unique rural workflows. And this team has been working in that environment for a really long time. So as we wrap up, your next steps are to use that QR code. It's going to put your information into our system so we can make sure we get the RHT readiness checklist to you. We can help you if you schedule some time with us to do a use of funds consultation and our grant program services. We can even help you with other funding. It doesn't have to be just this one. And we tailor those lanes A, B, and C to your specific plan. We want you to engage now because obviously the states are moving really, really fast. And your early collaboration is going to shape your solutions. And those late responses, you're going to miss the boat altogether. So we're here and ready to help you build the stack and brainstorm on your narratives and secure that funding. So we're going to open it up for questions. I think that we have a few of those in queue with a few minutes we have left here. So Bea or Molly, do we have any questions that have come in through the chat?
Yes. Kristen, can you go up on the top in the Q&A? There's actually a few questions there.
Okay, let me do that. So in the Q&A, I'm looking at the other screen. I'm going to move this over here so it doesn't, where did it go? Give me just a second. Q&A.
Kristen, I can ask him if you're not finding him. You guys can hear me.
I think I just did. Okay, so with regard to medical equipment and solutions, can organizations have custom design systems for their needs? For instance, ENT, cardio, school-based solutions? Absolutely. That's the thing. We kind of showed you some out-of-the-box solutions, but we absolutely can customize, you know, anything from a large surgical suite to kiosks for checking it at the front desk. There's just a lot of variety. We have another question that says, how much does it cost for your team to help us prepare and understand? I love that my answer is free. There's no charge. We're here to build a partnership and to be a support to you. And that is free of charge. We offer that to help you analyze and figure out how to take advantage of these funds. And we want to build that partnership. We're not just a vendor. So we have another question here that says, has it been confirmed that the 20% will be bypassed in Alaska for integrated proposals? That is counter to what was discussed at a conference at the state runs webinars. You know, I need to check on that. It is interesting because each state has been able to make a few adjustments for with CMS. And I think that's the beauty of the way this program has been pushed down, because every state is not the same. Every county is not the same. So they are making changes. Let's see, we have another question. So this is one from William. Are states awarding multi-year grants? Okay, so it is a 5-year program. And different states are putting out RFPs that could be single or multi-year programs. So they're all moving forward in the concept that it's going to be a multi-year activity. So the answer is yes, but it depends on the state. And so we can help you with that and help you determine whether or not you're positioned to take advantage of that. For your CME educational courses, could we purchase an enterprise or group license for all of our staff at our organization? Can you talk to that one, Eric?
Yeah, you sure can. And that's really what we're kind of offering. You can buy it in a bulk. If your health system is looking to train your workforce, make them more confident at the bedside. These are CME approved, accredited courses. So we're going into health systems or organizations and we can right size what that might look like for your group. So yes, short answer is yes.
Okay, good. We had another question from Alaska. I'm so glad we have so many of you on here. It's about service or function is paid for by insurance already, it was stated it would not be funded. That is correct. They do not want to support duplicative or already covered programs. But again, I think we've got to dive in very specifically to your state. So I encourage you to schedule some time with us to have a very one-on-one session where we can dig into the specifics for you, because that is going to be unique for each location. Okay, so I really want to be respectful of your time. We've reached the hour. I know we've talked really, really fast. Please schedule time with us so we can dig in with you specifically. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great day and go get some of that money.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Kirsten. And you
Thanks,
bet.
everyone.